Ok, direi che possiamo partire. Quindi vi rinnovo il buongiorno e vi rinnovo il ringraziamento per essere qui presente, partecipare a questo webinar. Io sono Ermete Longari, piacere di conoscervi, faccio parte del team di Toluna ID in Italia ed oggi ci darà supporto per questo webinar Marie Hense, che è Global Head of Quality in Toluna. Quindi si occupa di questi temi di qualità da parecchi anni in Toluna, quindi è la persona migliore per poter parlare di qualità. Giusto per dare un minimo di contesto, Toluna ha da sempre messo la qualità al centro della propria proposta, lo consideriamo da sempre un elemento imprescindibile per tutto ciò che è ricerca di mercato e per questo motivo abbiamo deciso di organizzare questo breve webinar per condividere qual è il nostro pensiero in questo momento in merito alla qualità dei dati oggi, soprattutto in un momento dove il tema della qualità è molto attuale, anche perché stiamo andando verso le AI, verso le synthetic personas, quindi tornano di moda i temi di qualità, affidabilità e delle fonti dei dati. Quindi abbiamo deciso di creare questo breve webinar. L'agenda di oggi verterà innanzitutto con una prima introduzione per capire a che punto siamo, qual è lo stato dell'arte del data quality ad oggi. Procederemo poi analizzando quali sono quelle che riteniamo le competenze necessarie per gestire al meglio la qualità dei dati e quindi come Toluna sta affrontando questo tema anche con l'aiuto, vedremo, della tecnologia, che ci dà una grande mano, e concluderemo poi con quelle che sono le sfide principali che ci aspettano in tema di qualità, per capire appunto anche in virtù dei possibili cambiamenti nel mondo della ricerca dovuti alle AI nei prossimi mesi, nei prossimi anni, vedremo anche appunto come ci stiamo preparando per mantenere livelli di qualità sempre elevati. Quindi prima di lasciare la parola a Marie Hense, giusto una breve introduzione su Toluna ID, perché magari non tutti conoscono Toluna ID, che è una nuova divisione creata da qualche mese, dedicata al mondo delle ricerche di mercato, delle agenzie media, delle istruzioni, della consulenza, quindi ci focalizziamo su questi 4 settori della ricerca, o meglio 4 settori, 4 industries: ricerca di mercato, media, istruzione e consulenza. Operiamo quindi in maniera indipendente rispetto alle altre divisioni di Toluna, che da sempre supportano aziende e brand nel mondo della ricerca, quindi cerchiamo di fornire servizi personalizzati. Il nostro obiettivo quindi è quello di fornire un servizio principalmente, ma non solo, da servizio di panel provider, ma non solo, perché siamo in grado di offrire servizi diversi e consulenza di ricerca. Sempre però con una modalità caratterizzata da agilità, flessibilità, in linea con le esigenze del mercato e di queste industrie in particolare. Sintetizzando, comunque, i nostri 3 principali pilastri della nostra offerta rimangono sempre l'impegno per la qualità, e questo webinar credo che lo testimoni, la possibilità di livelli di collaborazione molto flessibili, quindi dal do it yourself al full service, quindi da una modalità autonoma a una modalità in cui noi ci facciamo carico di tutto il processo di ricerca, e soprattutto alla base della nostra offerta rimane sempre il prodotto principale, che è il panel proprietario, quindi il panel proprietario di più di 70 milioni di persone in 70 paesi. Questo giusto per darvi visibilità anche appunto di Toluna ID. Io direi che a questo punto siamo pronti per entrare nel vivo del webinar, quindi lascio la parola a Marie Hense. So Marie Hense, it's up to you. We are switching to English. And
We are.
yeah, just last information: for any question, please feel free to write them in the chat. I will try to poi mi occuperò io di passarle a Marie Hense, quindi scrivetele pure in chat e poi le condividiamo. Marie Hense, up to you. Thank you.
Perfect, grazie Ermete. And like Ermete said, we're going to switch to English now, but if you'd like to ask any questions in the chat, do ask them in Italian, and Ermete will help us bridge the language differences and make sure that everyone gets the insight into our quality topic today that they're hoping for. So great to see so many of you interested in the topic of quality. And what we'll look at today, like Ermete already said, is what's the status of quality? What are the kind of quality challenges that we are facing in the market today? how do we need to tackle them, and what does the future hold? So what do we need to prepare ourselves for when it comes to quality, specifically with a view on online research? Now, let's have a look at the status quo and what things are looking like today. Now, the first thing that we need to tackle, because this has been a huge topic in the industry for many years now, is global organized fraud. So this is a topic that is hotly debated, a big challenge, but it is happening, and there are organized fraud actors that are systematically trying to exploit online research. And we'll talk a little bit about how they do that in a moment. But the second point that we mustn't forget about while we talk about fraud quite a lot is also that research best practices keep evolving, and the way that we have to engage with respondents keeps evolving as well. A few years ago, who would have thought that flip phones would be coming back? And now all of a sudden, people have very small phones or very big phones, very different types of devices. And we need to ensure we stay relevant and we stay engaged and connected to our potential respondents. And the reason that this is so important is because we are competing as researchers for our respondents' attention. And our respondents' attention these days is not a competition of one survey against another survey. It is online research against TikTok, against YouTube, against Instagram. When someone thinks about what am I going to do for the next 5 to 10 minutes, surveys are one of those considerations, but we are competing against these really sleek, really addictive almost applications. And we need to compete with that, not one survey against the other. It's all surveys against everything else that somebody could be doing for the next 5 to 10 minutes. So respondent experience is extremely important, and ensuring that we've got engaged respondents and we engage them through our research design is extremely important as well. Now, how does this tie back to global organized fraud? Well, if real respondents don't want to participate in online research because they are not getting a good experience, then the fraudsters will be more than happy to fill that gap, because they don't care about the experience, they just care about the incentive. So research design and fraud prevention are inevitably connected, and they need to be tackled together in order to ensure quality as a whole. Now, a few things that we do at Toluna to do this is, first of all, of course, we've got a proprietary panel of respondents, and that means we've got full transparency and monitoring of these respondents, not just in the moment that they're taking the survey, but over time, longitudinally. And that allows us to understand whether someone's contributions to research are consistently of the quality that we expect, or whether they are, for example, declining over time. We also tackle quality holistically. So within Toluna, like Armeta just said, we've got lots of different specialized teams that are maybe focused on the supply, on research, on technology, and all of these teams work together to ensure the quality of our respondents. A few years ago, as researchers only had to think about questionnaire design from a methodological perspective. How do we make sure we follow the funnel principle? How do we make sure we don't bias our respondents? Now we've also got to understand, how does fraud work? What kind of technology do fraudsters use? And how can we adapt our survey design to account for that fraud detection factor? And bringing all of these different areas of expertise together is extremely important. And we do that within Toluna by having a dedicated quality team and quality champions that collaborate on exactly this topic. And now, last but not least, Toluna is a pioneering company in online research. We've been around for about 25 years now, since pretty much the infancy of online research. And that means we've seen a lot of challenges and overcome a lot of challenges over the years. And all of these learnings have really helped us set up a robust quality framework and robust quality processes that set us up for success for any future quality challenges that may come. Now, a question that I get asked quite a lot is, well, we talk about fraud so much in online research, but is that actually worth it? How can that be worth it? And the reality is, yes, it is financially worth it for fraudsters to defraud online surveys. Now, we've got to take a step back. We are not talking about people or fraudsters in Italy defrauding Italian surveys. We are talking about global international fraud. So we are talking about, for example, fraudsters in India defrauding Italian surveys or British surveys or American surveys. And the reason that this is so worth it for them is because of exchange rates. So a survey that in Italy pays maybe a €1 incentive for a European or Italian fraudster wouldn't be worth a lot. It wouldn't be worth the effort. But a euro is worth quite a lot in Indian rupees. So, for example, looking at the minimum national salary in India, that's about 178 rupees per day. Now, that translates to about €1.74. So you can see if they defraud one, maybe two surveys per day, then they'll already have made the national minimum wage for that day. Now, if they manage to defraud 3 or 4 surveys in a day, all of a sudden their profit goes up and their income goes up quite significantly. Now, if they use technology to automate a lot of their activities, that really starts making it worth it. And seeing these numbers makes it clear why fraud is such a big challenge in online research, and one that all of us and every researcher needs to be aware of when it comes to conducting research online. Now, other methods have other kinds of challenges, which we're not going to go into detail on today, but this is just to really explain and connect the dots here of why is fraud even worth it in online research. Now, we've already said this a little bit, but let's remind ourselves again, we are not just competing against surveys and other surveys. We don't just have to be better than the next survey in terms of respondent experience. We have to be better, or at least as engaging or rewarding as other ways of spending a respondent's time, whether that is using a social media app, whether that is playing an online game or whatever it may be. So we as researchers have to think about, how do we capture a respondent's attention for the next 5 to 10 minutes through the way that we design our research. And that means we need to always reconsider and evolve how we ask our questions, how we design our surveys, and how we engage and connect with our target audience. And this may differ depending on your target audience. Younger target audiences will have different preferences to older target audiences. B2B senior stakeholders, if that's your target group, will have a different kind of needs than general population surveys. So always keep your respondent in mind when designing your research and designing your research experience. Now, we've already connected the dots between fraud and research design and methodology. So let's talk a little bit more about how we can tackle those together. One thing that is extremely important in quality assurance is that we have a process that is multi-layered, because fraudsters, of course, know how we try to catch them out. So we need to ensure that a multi-layered, multi-stage quality process is in place to screen respondents and verify that they are authentic. Now, some of these steps have to happen before a respondent enters a survey. Some of these happen while they're in the survey, and some of these happen after the survey is completed. Depending on the kind of project that you run, some of these responsibilities will fall within your team if you are designing the questionnaire, for example. But a lot of these things happen behind the scenes at Toluna already. So let me show you a little bit more about what's happening already behind the scenes before a respondent even enters your survey. Now, we have something called a quality score. This quality score is an algorithm that automatically combines dozens of data points in real time to evaluate whether a respondent is likely fraudulent or whether they are likely authentic and genuine. Now, these data points that go into this algorithm, we categorize into three broad categories: device checks, behavioral checks, and identity checks. Device checks will be things like geolocation, will be the language settings of the device, it will be the time zone settings. We use a range of IP address checks, whether that's duplication or similarity checks, whether that is usage of VPNs or proxy VPNs, whether that is checking those IP addresses against fraud databases, or simply looking for recapture information, so bot behavior, things like mouse movements, things like browsing history, or the use of online translators. There's a whole range of checks that we conduct on a respondent's device pre-survey before they would even enter a survey. And with these checks, we identify globally about 13% of survey attempts as suspicious, and we terminate them based on this factor. Now, the second point, and this is where questionnaire design comes in significantly, is the behavioral checks. So how do respondents behave in the survey? And that could be things like attention checks, logic checks, overstatement. That could be aspects such as speeding, pattern behavior. So all of those kinds of behaviors that we see in survey and how our respondents respond to the actual survey topic. The third category of data points that we include in our quality scoring is identity checks. So that'll be aspects such as digital fingerprinting. We also do pattern recognition on personal information. We also use cookies to connect different accounts and see whether they're being used by several respondents. And also that longitudinally trackable ID, the respondent ID, that allows us to see how respondents behave over time. Now, with all of these quality checks that we're talking about, though, we need to find a balance, because of course we could say, why don't we just add as many quality checks as possible into our surveys and pre-survey and wherever we can? Well, the reality is, if we add too many hoops for our respondents, our real respondents, to jump through, then this will have a significant impact on their experience. And that, of course, will have an impact onto whether or not they participate. If the real authentic respondents choose to not participate anymore, the fraudsters will gladly jump in and take their place. So it's about finding the right balance between fraud screening and our respondent experience that they have while participating in research. We recently actually did a full webinar on this topic only with quirks. So if you're interested in that, I'm sure Ermete and the team will be happy to share the link to provide further information on this topic. But this is a very delicate balance that we always have to keep in mind as researchers when we design our surveys, to not create too many hoops. Now, that is the status quo and what we need to be aware of as researchers, what we need to take into consideration. But what about the future of data quality and online data quality? So, first of all, we've got to acknowledge that technology will only get better. And with the increased use and improvements that we're seeing in artificial intelligence, for example, we as researchers are getting a lot of new tools that are helping us become more efficient, become better researchers, become better at using our data, but the same technology can also be used by fraudsters against us. So we've got to always be aware that the technology that we have access to, they have access to as well. And the open source nature of that will most likely stay that way. It is very easy to get access to any kind of generative AI tools such as ChatGPT these days. You just sign up and then you can use this tool quite easily. And fraudsters have access to that as well, of course. Now, competition for respondents' attention will not decrease either. In fact, it will more likely increase. And there is a certain fatigue that is already setting in with the general population of being overexposed to notifications on our devices, to information, to marketing, to communication. And so we as researchers need to continuously think about and evolve our research design to ensure we stay competitive and we do still capture respondents' attention. And specifically, quality challenges for online research, of course, will be online fraud, which will be powered by technology and certainly artificial intelligence. So that is one topic that we need to consider to continue keeping an eye on. We need to ensure that we find a balance between quality checks and respondent experience to ensure that we retain our real respondents. And we also need to ensure the general respondent experience that we are creating through the research that we design. We should always design with our target audience in mind and ensure that they have a good experience as they are going through our survey. So how can we prepare for this? Well, first of all, we need to leverage technology because fraudsters are leveraging technology. So there's a lot of opportunity within research. We already do this within Toluna through topics such as automated data cleaning, using AI for open-end cleaning, for example, automation of certain tasks such as quality checks and our quality score, which is an algorithmic quality score. As mentioned, it automatically in real time combines all of these data points into a quality score that in real time decides and predicts whether someone should be allowed to enter a survey or not. So leveraging technology for research is absolutely essential to stay competitive going forward. Another really important aspect is continued collaboration in the industry. Quality is a challenge for the industry and everyone who is in it, all the researchers, all the suppliers, all the clients. We all have a joint interest in ensuring the quality of the insights and the data that we provide. And so Toluna is already part of a lot of quality initiatives, a lot of best practice initiatives. And so we are at the forefront of where the industry is heading and how things are developing. We also need to continuously improve and revise and evolve the quality checks that we include in our surveys and in our respondent quality assurance, whether that is the pre-screening of our respondents at registration or before a survey, whether that is in survey or whether that is post-survey. We need to ensure that we stay up to speed with how fraudsters are trying to disguise themselves, and our quality checks need to keep up with that as well. So that ongoing and repeated revision of how we do things is very important. Now, we share our thoughts on best practices through different cheat sheets and different documents that we're always happy to share with our clients to just share what we do internally in terms of best practices and what we consider the best way of doing these things. So Mette and the team, I'm sure, will be happy to share those with you as well if you're interested. And now lastly, what can you do as researchers? Well, keep in mind the balance that we've got to find between fraud detection and real respondents. Keep in mind that there is fraud in online research, and we need to protect our research projects against that. But also keep in mind that there are real respondents out there who deserve a great experience, because if they don't get that, we may not get a second chance again. So when you design your projects, think about the length of interview, think about the compatibility with different kinds of devices, and how to make the research experience as seamless as possible for our real respondents. But also think about what kind of quality checks you need to include in your surveys, whether that is checking for logic and logical response behavior, checking for in-survey behavior such as copy and paste detection, whether that is different types of attention checks. It really is all about finding that balance and ensuring both sides of quality assurance are covered. And of course, if you are getting respondents from somewhere, make sure you ask about where they come from and how they were recruited, how they were screened, what kind of quality checks were applied, so that you've got full transparency on who the respondents are that are participating in your research. And lastly, quality, like I've already said, is a team effort and an industry effort. So it is great to see all of you on this webinar today interested in quality. Obviously, we did a very quick whistle-stop tour with just touching quite lightly on some of these topics. But like I said, we are always happy to share our own best practices, how we do things, and to be as transparent as possible. So if you've got any follow-up questions or you would like more information, our website contains a dedicated quality page where you can find a lot more follow-ups, or Mette and the rest of the team will, of course, be happy to share more information about what we do, how we do it, and to keep the conversation going on how we can all, as an industry, collaborate to ensure data quality at the end of the day. And with that, Mette, I know I've mentioned your name quite a lot, so let's see if there are any questions or any thoughts from the audience maybe today.
Yes, so thank you, Marie Hense. Really interesting, very full of information and a lot of interesting things to food for thought. So I think this will be open discussion internally as well. And switch to Italian, se ci sono domande vi chiedo gentilmente di scriverle pure in chat, così possiamo poi rivolgerle a Marie Hense. Let's wait, Marie Hense, for some questions. In the meantime, I found very interesting also your last point to that we can work together. I mean, a researcher on one side and Toluna on the other side. I think that is a very interesting point that we could leverage and we could work on with our clients, because probably is the best way to share information and to share. The problem is for the both of us. So if we get together to fix it, that is for sure very helpful. So I liked in particular this last point of your presentation.
Completely agree.
Al momento nessuna domanda, quindi direi che a questo punto possiamo chiudere il nostro webinar. So Mary, I think we are about to close. No questions so far. So I think we can close this webinar. E ringrazio ancora tutti nuovamente per la partecipazione. Per qualsiasi dettaglio siamo ovviamente a disposizione. E grazie ancora e buon lavoro, buona giornata a tutti.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Grazie.
Thank you.